Golden Spiral Media presents The Blacklist Exposed.
This week, I agree with Red. Escaping a dire situation by Chopper seems like a fun time to me. Welcome to The Blacklist Exposed. I am Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Special Agent Doug Payton, filling in for Agent Peterson as he strangely went missing this morning. Let's just hope the Cabal doesn't come mid-episode or so for Troy, since we know that Aaron squeals even worse than Vargas.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Thanks for joining us this week as we discuss number 43 on the Blacklist, The Djinn, which aired October 22nd, 2015, written by Daniel Cerrone and directed by Omar Mata. What's a Mata you? Show notes for this and other episodes of the Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com. A quick reminder, if you have not done so already, you can now take our show on the go with the Blacklist Exposed app for iOS and Android. And that way, if you're on the run, like Liz and Red, you can still get all the intel and analysis you need. Search for the Blacklist Exposed in the iOS App Store or on Google Play.
So glad you're here, Doug. We had some issues this morning, special agents out there, because Aaron was out of town. He brought his stuff with him, tried to get on the Wi-Fi, and it was just bad. Bad news.
I think the Cabal was jamming his signal.
It absolutely was. And I think Aaron was able to finally find a telephone that was not being tapped, and we'll actually...
Oh, what?
I was like, what is that thing? Does it have a circle? It's like a rotary thing they had to dial out there where he was.
It's got a bell inside it, for crying out loud.
So Doug was able to pinch hit. He does our Person of Interest podcast over here at Golden Spiral Media. So glad you were able to fill in on short notice, Doug. Thank you for being here.
Great to be here, Troy.
And you've been a Blacklist fan since season 1, I do believe.
I have actually sent in a few, not very many, but a few bits of feedback very early on. But I've been listening in and watching the show pretty religiously, and I love it. It's one of those very thick with plot. The plots are always, they don't have to, the plot doesn't thicken. It's really thick all the way through in this, and I love the writing, and they've done a great job with this. So I'm glad it's in its third season now. Yeah,
especially this week, this episode, probably one of my favorites, I think, of all time. It might even be going up against Ansel Garrick as number 1 because, man, total slapsticks, didn't see it coming. It was like, hit me from the right, hit me from the left, and I was like, well, what just happened? But we will get into that in a little bit, because first we have business to clean up from last week. We asked you guys to answer our profiling question of the week, which was, is Liz past the point of redemption? Get it? Redemption from last week? Haha.
Well, Erica said, I don't think so. She shot the Attorney General in self-defense, sort of. Her fantasy revealed that she doesn't want a criminal life. Levon said many people are, quote-unquote, damaged goods. Many people that are damaged goods do miraculous works for the betterment of others. That very damage, in many ways, makes them more humane. It has not been directly said, but I feel Samar may have been, or still is, an Israeli assassin. That's a lot of damage to carry around.
Now, was she Israeli or was she Iranian? I forget which country she...
I don't think she's Israeli. What she would be, I don't know, but I don't think she's Israeli.
Middle Eastern of some course, right? Because they were having that conversation with Nasir, and then she's like, "You know how that is, don't you, Agent Navabi?" And she's like, "I do, but I, grew out of it and became my own person."
Yeah. Well, Robin continued. Robin said, "No, she is not beyond redemption, and neither is Red. Everything is not as it seems. Not on this show, which is absolutely true." Rory said, nobody is ever really past the point of redemption, but her season 1 life as she knew it no longer can or will exist. It was really strange how Navabi was so point blank and period when it came to Liz. If I didn't kill him for what he was going to do, why did she? It made Wrestler think. Makes us think too. And Terry said, oh no, she's not past redemption. She's going to be a Shiro, I guess it's a she-hero, in the end. When all is exposed, as in the Blacklist, she will attain even greater fame than Elliot Ness. She and Red are, after all, untouchable.
I love that she brings it Elliot Ness. That's great.
Yes, indeedy.
We continue with Carol said, no, she is redeeming herself every single week. She's still saving people and sharing information with the FBI. Liz was trying to protect the people that she cared about, and she still is doing that. Does this actually show, how it all started with Red? Was he actually a good person who started doing bad things to protect those he loved and then just kind of lost himself little bit by little bit? When he sees Liz, he sees home, and maybe he sees hope of redemption for himself as well.
I like that idea. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, they have to either cleanse themselves from all this wrongdoing at some point in time for both of them in order for it to finally end, or, like we said, is this all just a master plan of Red's? Because Red is really a master criminal at the end of the day.
And it kind of, there's sort of a mirroring going on here. We've got Liz who's going from squeaky clean to, the situation she's in now as on the run, and versus Red, who starts out as the most wanted man and turning himself into the FBI. Maybe we turn around at the end and see the good side of him as well. So maybe we're in the transition there.
And this is the second week in a row now where we've actually seen Red fine, Liz, I'll help you save the person's life, right? He ends up putting the cop in the car, getting to the hospital, and then taking off. And then this week he's like, man, I don't want to call the cavalry already, but if you want to save his life, I guess I'll dial 911. Fine, whatever. Interesting.
Oh, what a guy. He's such a kidder.
Karen said if she were beyond redemption, she would not have called for help and given first aid to the police officer she shot, and she wouldn't have insisted that they get help for the Djinn's father last night. Both times Red told her to just leave it or forget it, and she refused. Teddy said, I will say here and now she allegedly shot her father. If it was even her father, we still don't know. For a fact, she did not set the bomb. She did shoot Tom Connolly. So far without a very strong defense, except he was with the cabal, but would need to be proved. On the run, she did shoot a cop, but it could be self-defense because he was going to spin around and shoot at her. She does steal cars, and she does that pretty much almost a couple times a day now, and is guilty of breaking and entering in many places. She is aiding and abetting Red's escape. I really do not see her going back to being the profiler in the future.
I can see that. I can see where we've kind of turned a real corner with this character, and that would be, something that you don't see very often in network TV these days, where you turn a corner and you just don't go back. So I don't think we'll see that. That's good.
Yeah, I like that some of them are like, yeah, no, she's fine, and absolutely not. She's almost a criminal now in her own right, which is really good. We actually had one person call in using our send voicemail button, so let's go ahead and hear what Suzanne had to say.
Hi, Trey and Aaron. This is Suzanne from Clearing the Red Tape. I was calling to answer the profiling questions past the point of redemption, or should I say redemption. If we were to assume that Liz is past the point of redemption, we would have to say the same thing about Red. And in fact, we can apply that to just about any character on the show, because at the end of the day, under it all, one of the most prominent themes of the Blacklist is redemption. And it's being sought on so many different levels by so many different characters, even some of the Blacklisters we've seen, despite how warped their perception may be. We've seen some awful things in this show. We've seen murder and deceptive behavior and secrets. But at the end of the day, the show is really good at highlighting the underlying good in these characters, and it's always enough to make us pull for them, to root for them, to get that redemption that they seek. So by the show standards, I would say that Liz is not past the point of redemption. Yes, she killed the AG. Yes, she's on the run. She shot a cop. But at least we can say that she was doing these things for a noble reason, which I predict somewhere in the future we'll find out that Red is doing the same. So compared to what we've seen other characters do, no. I don't believe she's past the point of redemption. And we must always keep in mind that this is the Blacklist, and sometimes what happens will defy logic.
Absolutely will, especially with this show. I really like what Suzanne said there, Doug, because when you think about Tom Keen's character now he's going through his kind of redemption cycle story this season as well. And then you look at Cooper, and Cooper is trying to redeem himself in the FBI. That's why he didn't take the buyout. And he said, no, I'm definitely going to work as much as I can in the CJIS and try to work his way back into the chair of the task force. And one could even say Navabi is actually trying to do a redemption play because she was at a point, too. She even mentioned in this episode that she killed somebody, but she was willing to accept the results of that action, and Liz is going to need to accept those results, too. So maybe Navabi's having a little redemption as well.
In all the redemption we see, and some of the redemption isn't even the character's fault. Coop is not, it wasn't his fault. He got himself into a compromising situation, but he was, he was led into that dishonestly. But in all of these cases, in most of these cases, there is some sort of consequence that is obvious, that happens to the character. It isn't just, all is forgiven, bada bing, thank you. I think, Liz, some of these other folks, and we'll see some more even later, all the things that she has done. We've talked about shooting a cop, shooting the AG. That can't all just be hand-waved away. If she does come back to the task force, there may still be the redemption may not come without consequences. That's all I'm saying. She may be doing jail time. She may be, out of the FBI and have to do whatever she's going to do freelance or something like that. But if there isn't a serious consequence for, some of these things, I think that's going to be a little too easy, and I don't see the writers doing that. Okay, moving on. Rich said this: she will be cleared of all charges eventually. Now, you see, I didn't even look at that, and now there you are. He thinks she'll be cleared. I hope not, Rich. I really hope that there's some sort of, she's done some stuff she's got to make up for. Anyway, all the shootings will be justified, and they can't get her for stealing those cars because no proof she stole them. Okay. I truly think she's putting Red in great danger by not following his orders.
Agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and I think that we're setting that up for, some other stuff to, those not taking his advice is going to have some consequences later on. Cindy said no, she is questioning herself for sure, but no, she is still a good person. She is still FBI, too. Many of her actions say so. Frida said no, she needs to experience her dark side in order to appreciate her light side.
Great, now she's Luke Skywalker.
That's an interesting thought. I hope we don't all have to do that. I hope we can all appreciate our light side without having to go dark first. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Paulette said no. She's not past redemption. Liz has to be cleared for an injustice. She's basically a good person.
Basically.
Basically.
She's not all good.
Not exactly. Chuck, a.k.a. the professor, said, just the fact that she always wants the people she shoots to get medical attention, okay, except for Tom Connolly, says a lot about her as a person. She is still caring. That she is, yes.
I would agree 100%. She seems to have this good-natured heart in her, and even with Alice, I think this week too, we see a little bit of that, but we'll get into that when we get into the characters in just a minute. Jim said, yes, she is past redemption.
Ooh.
But so is Samar, and probably Cooper too, but it doesn't mean she can't work for the government still.
There's plenty of people who work for the government that are past redemption.
2016,
okay.
Here we come.
I'm sorry, I'm trying not to get political here.
Oh, yes. We'll probably get into more of that when we get into Red's tirade later today. Danielle said, I'd like to say she's past that point. I still have moments where I think Red is getting Liz ready to take his place when he hangs up the fedora as the concierge of crime. And Dorothy actually agreed with Danielle.
The concierge of crime. I like that.
I love it. I don't think he'll ever hang up the fedora, though. It's like permanently attached to his head, unless it's hiding a gun on a table.
Yes.
Notice he's done that twice now. He did it with the Verdiant CTO, put the little hat on top of the gun pointed at her, and he did it with Alice, too. It's like it's his move.
Just so you know, it's here.
Karen said she will be the Bonnie to Red's Clyde, and they will run the world together for a while before going out in a blaze of glory.
Huh. Oh, wow.
That would be great to see, wouldn't it?
That would be an interesting finale.
That'd be so awesome. Just go right off like Thelma and Louise off the cliff. That'd be cool.
Because we're not sure. Maybe Red has had a DNA swap there, So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Doug listens to the show. He knows what I think.
Oh, yes.
Remember, if you want to answer the profiling question of the week, and thank you so much for everyone who answered this week. Such good stuff. Head on over to the Blacklist Exposed and use our send a voice message button like Suzanne did. Super, super easy. You can do it right from your computer or smartphone. So once you hear next week's question, you can pause the podcast and actually try it out and then come on back.
Ooh. Okay, one final thought on Eli Machette. Andrew wrote it and said, this episode was mediocre to me. As I expected, with Red at the wheel, we would end up in a more interesting location than a cornfield. I'll be frank with both of you. No, you're Andrew.
That's right.
I didn't like this episode. It was a filler, and it did not have enough excitement to keep me engaged. I'm starting to grow a little bored with the cat and mouse routine with Wrestler and Samar chasing Red and Liz. However, I did like the usage of the corn industry. Corn is usually the undisputed ruler of the farming industry. Companies like Monsanto have cornered the market on genetically engineered seeds, and they have used intimidation and threats to bully farmers into using their seeds.
You missed that. Get it? Cornered.
While the Eli Machette episode did highlight a real threat, and whether it could really happen, putting Red in the middle of it all just didn't seem to fit. It didn't seem plausible that the way to the director was to be found in a cornfield. It could have been the intention of the writers to put Red and Liz in a totally new environment. It just did not sit well with me. I found it a tad ridiculous that Tom was waiting for the phone to ring. Sweet, but a little over the top. I love my Blacklist and Person of Interest. Good job, Andrew. Person of interest, yes. As Aaron may have already discovered due to my comments on his other podcast for the Hollywood Outsider, and I'm a loyal fan, even if it wasn't my favorite episode. Andrew. P.S. To emulate the great TV detective Columbo, just one more thing. How did Cooper know Tom was pining for Liz's phone call in a Chinese restaurant?
That is a very good question. Because I was scratching my head about that ever since we did the podcast last week. I was like, just happened to be in the same Chinese restaurant, same time? Is there a tracker in Tom? Like, what's going on here? This is
I
weird.
didn't know where to find him. Yeah, that's true. I hadn't even thought about that until Andrew mentioned it, yeah.
The only thing I could think of is that, remember that Cooper and Liz were close, almost like a father-daughter relationship. So maybe she had shared maybe a story about how her and Tom had met with Cooper at some point in time.
Could Tom have told Wrestler, because they kind of made a connection there, not a nice one, but could he have mentioned that? I don't know if he would have told Wrestler, hey, I'm going to be hanging out by this phone. Possible, but I don't know.
You'll have to pick up the Season 3 Blu-ray or DVD set to find those deleted scenes.
Where we get these answers.
Exactly right. So with that, next week's profiling question coming from the Djinn. It's going to be, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
What is your deepest, darkest... No, I'm just kidding. My wife said she'd kill me if I'd ask that.
Oh, no.
No, what I'd really love to know from all of you is, what was on the page that Red stole from the journal? Was it names? Was it something else? We're going to have to get all those answers in because we probably won't see for a couple episodes yet. So what was on the page that Red stole from the journal before he gave it back to Wrestler? And with that, let's fulfill your fantasy this week as we break down the Djinn with this week's case profile. Well, your hour of vengeance has arrived. The road to healing begins now. What happens next is up to you. These are the words of the Djinn, a woman-led organization who can fulfill what you deeply desire in a very interesting way, to say the least. How does one go about actually finding the Djinn, Doug?
Well, I was rather impressed. I am a computer geek. I work in the computer field. And many times TV shows kind of use technobabble, computer babble, stuff that doesn't really make sense or is not complete. But when they described this, I was impressed. Retro video game, fair enough. It was a really old kind of, if you know Castle Wolfenstein, it was that kind of a map type thing where all the walls are 90-degree angles and all that. So, yeah. And he mentioned using the Tor network, Tor encryption. And that's a thing. You can get an account with this website called Tor, Tor, and you can get an encrypted connection between you and any other, and it's completely anonymized, any other website or internet service like that. So they actually did make a good as far as the description went. They did a good job with that. Now I will say that I play Words with Friends and Scrabble on my little Android phone. Now, Djinn, I love this word. I found out all sorts of different ways to spell it because J is 10 points. Wow. And you can spell it J-I-N, or you can spell it D-J-I-N. It sounds like a guy who spins records. Hey, hello, I'm D-J-I-N. Or D-J-I. If you need to reach way out there for the triple word score, you can spell it with 2 N's, D-J-I-N-N, which is how it was spelled in this episode. So, yeah, I love it.
Or you can just spell it with a G, G-I-N.
Or you can spell it with a Djinn and completely change the whole meaning, yes.
Absolutely.
I'm going to meet the Djinn with a Djinn.
And we also, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, Djinn is also an Arabic word.
Yes.
And it means, of course, genie. I think, Samar kindly pointed that out for us in this episode. I remember that now.
Yeah, and I thought that was really interesting because when I found out ahead of time, because I was trying to figure out, how are they going to pronounce this word? It was driving me crazy. So I looked it up before the episode and saw that it had Arabic origins, right? And then of course, we have some Middle Easterns in this episode. So I thought, what a really great way to tie it all together.
To get them to tell what that is. And, when you hear about, like, Aladdin and the Djinn is really how I believe how the title of that goes. It's not the genie, I guess, is an anglicized version of that.
Correct.
Well, Lizzie and Red set out to make contact with this Djinn, unsure why, only for Liz to be whisked away in the portal potty.
It was so great.
Now, that's a great line. I like that, the portal potty. But I think I was having flashbacks to Get Smart back in the day. And I was waiting for, like, an elevator, when she walked in, it was actually going to go down or something like that. Not something quite as pedestrian as a hole cut in the back of it.
Well, I think the issue was that they stole the Get Smart elevator for the Frigivator a couple weeks ago. So they couldn't do it a second time because they'd already done it once. So this way, they kind of switched it up. They, instead of doing the keypad where the back of the fridge opens up to sneak out, this time they actually did the back of the porta potty that opened up.
That's great. I love that.
Oh, it's so good. Great scene. I really love the cop cars coming, too. I mean, I actually was sitting on the edge of my seat going, like, holy crap, what's going to happen now? You even saw Red get a little anxious there. And then, of course, they took the other guy who was screaming and yelling by the cars. So it was like, whew, escape that one.
When Red gets anxious, it's time to be anxious.
It absolutely does. Now, she finally gets in the car. I have to say, the car was so cool, right? It's pitch black. And then she's like, I'm going to turn the lights out. Like, was she on an airplane?
Like, well, who was driving? I mean, somebody's, she didn't have any interaction with the driver. All you ever see is the back seat.
And I couldn't make out if it was like a Lincoln or something that you usually have, or like a black town car type thing. If you're like getting picked up, at the airport. But it wasn't a limo. It looked like a standard kind of, 4-door sedan type of deal. So very interesting to have it all tricked out on the inside. So was it a self-driving car that worked on GPS or something?
Well, Liz only steals cars with without GPSs, so this couldn't be stolen.
This is true. Very true. So she gets to the Djinn, and the Djinn is basically grilling her, wants to go deeper. Don't give me that surface crap. I want to know what your deepest desire is. And at first, I thought, okay, she stands up and takes that glass. I thought when she took the drink that maybe she had been poisoned because she does that stumble thing. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? And then no, actually it was Liz doing a double cross on the Djinn to put this tracking device on the shoe. The only thing that bothered me about that scene was I thought the shoe was shown a little too long. Like, okay, how long are you going to bend over here putting this thing on? It's like,
really, viewer, look. Yeah.
And they could have done the Chekhov's gun thing and done it rather quickly, right? I think it would have played off more exciting in the episode had it been like she just real quickly bumped down there and like brushed the floor and then stood back up again. And you only got a quick glance of the shoe, but the long glance of the shoe, it was like, oh yeah, of course they tracked her. Let's see. Turns out that this lady, Alice, isn't the Djinn. The Djinn actually ends up being the daughter of a man who runs Azir Financial, which is in the middle of a hostile takeover by the Newcastle Group. The fake Djinn sets up the ability for the daughter to torture her father for something he did to her, which we don't know about until the very end of the episode. And actually, Daniel Cerrone, who tweeted out during this episode that the X-shaped cross was used because they couldn't use a real cross that you would see in Christian times because of standards and practices at NBC shooting that down for fear of backlash, outcry, what have you.
I can see why they might have done that, yeah.
So that's why the cross was X-shaped, in case anybody was interested. So what did you think of this story, this concept of, this woman or boy, in the case we found out, torturing her dad because of what the father did to her?
I mean, I see that as a kind of a standard revenge story. Unusual circumstances, definitely. Yeah, the whole idea that she was a boy was there were a few things I saw coming around the mountain. That was not one of them.
No.
That A, that she was the Djinn, and B, that she was a he. So I don't. Yeah, that was really well done, I thought, and I think it really drove the point home as to why she would having it done, not involuntarily, having it done to her rather than being a voluntary thing. I can't imagine what that would be like, and I could, therefore see how, I can see how this would be very, had been eating at her for years, but it just seemed, the method by which she was torturing him was, that seemed a bit over the top too. What he did to her was over the top, so I guess it kind of mirrors that, if you want to look at it that way.
Right, because I'm sure the chaplains or whatever he mentioned, the clerics, would agree with eye for an eye. If you're really trying to go with the Old Testament logic here on how this all plays out. Now, I have to say that I saw coming around the mountain too, I saw that she was going to be the head of the Newcastle group because you never saw brother and sister together at the same time.
Yeah, that was the worst kept secret of the episode. I think.
Yeah, that one was like right out there, and I was like, okay, this is like the daughter trying to show like we're in America, so I'm going to take over the company and I'm going to run it because my brother's a tool, and yeah, I've seen this story before. And then it was like, what just happened? I was like, she's a boy. Holy crap! This is what. I think it was my reaction, and I watched it a second time just to make sure I heard it the right way, because I was like, this is awesome. This is, I think, one of the best things that the Blacklist does is that you literally have the entire thing figured out, and then you absolutely don't by the end of the episode.
And it makes sense, it's not something they just pulled out of a hat, the fedora. You can kind of see if it isn't like that out of the blue. It follows, a nice progression up to where it winds up and just tosses you on your head. I thought Red's little soliloquy to the father about, what do you mean? Why would you do this to your daughter? That sort of thing, or your son, excuse me. It just seemed like, he really had a really good speech there, and yeah, it was a little rough on the father who's, sitting there having been just taken down from an X-shaped cross. But yeah, he really had his high dudgeon out for that.
Which is something I wanted to ask you, because he sits there and has that kind of, tirade, yelling at the father for what he did, but yet he calls the cavalry to come to save his life. So what does that say about Red?
Well, I'm thinking that while maybe this is a redemption thing too, he had given both, he had given both these sides kind of a talking to, and then the cavalry comes in, and part of it is to get him out, and the cavalry comes in to save the father, give him the medical attention he needs, and so he's kind of showing that even though the father, what he did, Red believes was just awful, even he is worthy at least of being able to live beyond that, not being tortured and killed for it. If you think of it one way, you could say he killed, his original child, made something completely different. And this is Red saying, you are not, even though you did that, and even though you, quote unquote, deserve what you're getting, you shouldn't get it. Human beings shouldn't be put through that. You shouldn't have put your child through that, and your child shouldn't be putting you through that. So I can do something about what your child is doing to you.
And again,
so, something like that.
Yeah, this is another Blacklister that's a familial tie. So if we're supposed to read into something about that, just putting it out there. The other thing that kind of came up with this is this leather journal that he came to find. And I have to tell you, sometimes Red is such a brilliant ass. This was such a great scene. He's got the book. He jumps in the helicopter. And then Liz pulls the gun on the Djinn and says, sorry. And she's like, we had a deal. It's like, no, you had a deal with him. And then he's like, women, what are you going to do about it? You know?
That's kind of, I don't know. That just seemed a little convenient. You had a deal with him, not with me. Wait a minute. Doesn't he speak for the two of you? I don't know.
Well, it was almost kind of counterintuitive, right? Because he's saying, women, you know, what are you going to do? But he's like saying it like, is he talking to Nasir or Nassim, right? At that moment, is he talking to the boy or the girl version?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Alrighty.
So it was kind of interesting how he kind of put that. And then he drops the journal for Wrestler, obviously, to find -1 page. So it's such a great way to take off. It was pretty great.
Well, I liked the introduction of the helicopter. Excuse me, that's not my helicopter.
And how brilliant was it that Alice was in the helicopter? So was Red the first client that he was talking about during that sit down with Alice? I have your first client already lined up.
That could have been. Did she arrange the helicopter?
Could be. She had all this money hidden away, saved up. Just go buy a helicopter with it, I guess. All right, so what we do in this show is we do get into the characters after we talk about the story a little bit. We don't do a play-by-play rundown. So let's start out with the first character we see, or almost first character we see, which is Aram. I love that he's kind of keeping himself in shape for Samar, riding his bike to work. Mm-hmm. That's always great. He kind of shrugs off Leonard Call. Great to see Leonard Call, by the way, this episode. Leonard comes running down the stairs out of his apartment like, whatevs, you know, and then basically comes upstairs and has a cup of joe with his pals up in his apartment. The big question, of course, is did you notice the picture of him and Samar in street clothes hanging up on the fridge?
I did not see that.
Yes. Go back and watch it. They are sitting there. They are definitely dating outside of the office for sure.
My question is, who took the picture?
Oh, that's a really good... We should make that the profiling question of the week.
I mean, unless it's a selfie, who took the picture?
That's true. The selfie sticks are around. You never know. But they're basically in the apartment talking. Did you love Aram this week? It was kind of like the pseudo Liz, right? He basically sets up the Blacklister for the week, kind of gives everybody the 411 back at the post office.
Yeah,
I was really digging him this episode.
I think he should have kept that bicycle helmet on at the post office.
That would have been awesome. New fashion trend.
There you are.
That's so good.
It can never be too safe.
So what did you think of him this week? Do you think he can add a little bit more? Do you like how they used him this week? Do you want to see more of this as the show goes forward?
I think he's been underutilized up until this point. He's been kind of the very concerned guy with the kind of worried look on his face almost all the time. This time, we got to see him a little more relaxed as he's coming back with the bike, you know, and whatnot. And then you get his worried look again when he sees that he's got some visitors at home. But I think, putting him, he's got, I think this actor has a good, can do a lot with this character. And I think Aram needs to, they need to open him. If they're going to open up this thing with he and Samar, then they need to give him more of a personality that we can understand and we can identify with.
And I love, too, that he has such a great moral compass that he's like, I'm really happy to see you, Liz. What are you doing here? And then he's like, okay, well, if you tell me all of this stuff, I'm going to have to go to Wrestler with it. You know that, right? So even though
and they expected that. They understood that about him.
Yeah.
And they're fine with it. Yeah.
Love it. And, Red told me to come tell you. It's like, what is that about? It's like, of course, he wants his help because he wants to bring down the cabal. So he wants the Wrestler to uncover all the clues as they go through this cat and mouse chase, as was it Andrew put it earlier in the feedback section. I also love Samar this week, making such a bold statement. If they're not searching for Keen's innocence, then what are they searching for? And I think this is the first time that we're introduced to the fact that they're looking for something bigger than just exonerating Keen in this first parts of the season.
Do you think there are some points that I got a vibe from Samar that she was rather upset with Keen, that Elizabeth, she was either that or she was upset with Tom, the way Tom is approaching this whole thing. And maybe that's why she made that statement. What is it we're looking for here? And the other thing, too, is to get that question that the viewers may already be having out in the open and say, what is it that we're searching for? And kind of leaving the viewers to think, well, yeah, what is it? If it's not just bringing her in, they're going to bring her in, and they have to. And, so what is it beyond that? What's the bigger picture? And so she asked that question, kind of leaves it hanging.
Yeah, are they searching for something to specifically get to the Cabal to prove that the Cabal exists so that they could clear her name from Tom Connolly's shooting? Because they could get to Karakurt to clear everything else with the Aria bombing and the Senator, because that was all Karakurt's doing. But she shot the AG in cold blood, unless you can claim it was to protect the country from this evil, dastardly group that's running the world. Because that's the only thing I could think of going to Verdiant last week, right in the middle of Iowa, is that they're trying to find information about the Cabal, specifically the director, Peter. So are they trying to do something to get Peter out in the open? I think is what we have to figure out.
Trying to connect the dots to the Attorney General.
Absolutely. And I also love the fact that she scolds Aram. I don't know if you caught this. Aram comes running in, kind of butts into her and Wrestler's conversation. And she's like, Aram. And then Aram kind of says, oh, sorry. You look nice today.
Yeah.
Such a great line. I don't know if that's what she intended, but it's funny.
He's, the very, I wouldn't say mousy, but he's, very timid still, and that timidity still comes through. I like that because you don't, it shows, first of all, you don't have to have a bombastic personality to make it in the FBI, but to have that there and to play that off of, Samara, like you said, rather bold in some cases, and Aram, hello there, you're looking nice. So and off he goes, So I just like the contrasts.
So now he's working. Do you want to see him work more with Samar? Now Samar and Wrestler have got this really great relationship, partners, Mulder Scully, if you will, in the field. It'd be interesting to see, I think, the two of them work together to see how their relationship kinks. Or do you like that their relationship is kind of like this backstory mystery that you only get little clues on the fridge about?
Yeah, I like the little backstory mystery idea. I'd also like to see Aram kind of interact more with other members of the team. Just and we've seen him occasionally here and there, but just to emphasize his personality, that the personality is within this character, but also to maybe perhaps see that develop some more of the bold and the confident personalities of those who are around him. See that kind of rub off on him. That would be interesting.
Almost kind of like leading the think tank back at the post office. Like he's got his own little group of lackeys that he can kind of boss around. Be interesting. Well, Mr. Solomon, little vacation this week for Mr. S. What do you think he's been plotting or doing on his week off?
Guys, don't call me. I'm on vacation. I don't know. I mean, what's the bit with Dembe? What is he trying to do here?
Exactly right.
I'm still not entirely sure what's going on with that, other than to give Dembe a bigger role, and I like that. That is a good. That's always a good thing. That character is just. We've just seen him mostly not speaking in the background as a very, very loyal confidant to Reddington, but we see even more now how loyal he is and what he's willing to go through. So with what is Solomon trying to do? Maybe get to Red. That's kind of the easy thing, but there should be other ways to do that, I would think, without having to take out or to try to get rid of the loyalty of a guy like Dembe. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, we didn't see him at the place where they were beating up Vargas and Dembe, so maybe Solomon's not in D.C., and then, of course, they run, and I think Vargas shows up at the end of the episode in New York where they were trying to tail the Djinn. So I'm assuming Solomon's not in New York either, so he must be out doing something. So we'll have to see if he comes back into the fold next week, because he wasn't beating up Dembe, which means Dembe gets a chance to escape. So first he gives this great speech, right? He's willing to protect his family, not willing to give up Raymond, willing to die if it means protecting everybody. Is this blind loyalty, or is it something deeper?
My guess is this is something we'll see in this season. I think this season we're going to catch a little more. I mean, we've seen a little bit of it, the fact that, Dembe was a child that Reddington took under his wing. But is that all it takes for this kind of loyalty? I think there's more to it. So I think we're going to find out more, I would think, this season, since we're specifically bringing it up now. Dembe is, telling the audience, what his, how deep his loyalty runs. So yeah, I think we're gonna be there. I don't think it's blind, although it's still Raymond Reddington, and who's done a lot of bad things, and is Dembe. Dembe has I think a deep moral compass in him, and so I would like to see. I'd like to find out why he manages to. He's covering for Red all these places.
So with the rope-a-dope, was this Dembe's idea or Vargas's idea to kind of fake the fact that the spoon was in his thing and Vargas leaked the information so that they could basically take him out and then escape together?
You must remember one thing: there is no spoon. Ooh. Oh, sorry. Get a little matrixy there. My guess is it was Dembe's idea, but Vargas played along so that he had his own, his own plan to take him out and get away as well. I think Dembe put it together, but Vargas kind of let him. Sure, yeah, we'll do that. He seemed to me to play the, I don't know what I'm going to do. Just frazzled, not knowing what to do, you better do this, you better stick with them, you better, tell them what they want to hear and whatnot. And he seemed like he was playing a part, though I wasn't sure. Yeah, I would have thought that at the escape he would have just gone and played along with it, but he doesn't. So that I didn't see that one coming.
So there's two things I want to point out about that scene. One, if you remember when we saw Vargas in season 2, he was all about like the hairpiece and the turtlenecks and very prim and proper. Here he's got seems like normal hair, and it's kind of styled a certain way. So keep that.
And that's why I didn't recognize him as Vargas originally. Not until you told me.
And then the spoon, right? So he's got the spoon hidden in the wall, not in his sock. And Vargas, remember when he was talking in season 2 about how he doesn't do the blood thing. Why did you shoot him in front of me? You know how I feel about the blood, right? From season 2. And then here he takes the spoon and totally stabs the dude in the neck, no hesitation. So is that something we should pick up on? Just keep that in the back of your mind. I'm curious. We have some thoughts from the listeners. So let's talk about Vargas here, right? Because I really hope at this point someone goes and steals that dude's bike.
You're mean. You know that? You got a real mean streak in you.
He shot Dembe. What the heck?
Okay, well, yeah, you got a point there. We love Dembe.
We absolutely do. Okay, so this is the question now. So he shoots Dembe. You remember just before the rope-a-dope situation that we have him saying clearly in the open, if I'm dead, my family is safe. Right?
Now, Dembe said that or Vargas said that?
Dembe said that to Vargas, right, as he's sharpening the spoon.
Alrighty.
So is the shooting a way to make Dembe, quote-unquote, dead so his family is safe, and it really wasn't Vargas, intentionally trying to kill Dembe?
Oh, it wasn't a double cross. It was a way to get them to think he's actually dead. Oh. I don't, and then he bails. I don't think that's... I don't think it would work because, he could say, well, I shot him and there you go. But, shot doesn't necessarily mean he's dead. If there's no proof of that, then I don't think that really has the desired effect.
Now, I know what everybody's going to say, right? Or, oh, well, he took the tuba thing and the mouthpiece and he called Solomon and told him how to find Red. Let me point this out there. The way he says it on the phone doesn't mean that he's really going to give up Red's location. He just says, I know how to find Red, which means could this be Vargas drawing Solomon out into the open? So this was all a Red plan all along.
Oh, wow. You think that Red orchestrated this whole thing? Now, Red is concerned about Dembe. We do know that.
True.
Yeah, because at some point, I believe he was expecting to see him, but he wasn't there.
So could have Glenn or maybe Mr. Kaplan or somebody else been kind of orchestrating this to get Vargas captured.
And Red just hasn't been able to find out about this plan because he's been on the run.
Correct. So that's one possible theory, right? The other possible theory is the surface, right? He shot Dembe. He's working for the Cabal, yada, yada, yada. There's a third theory, which we're going to leave for the listener feedback section because it's pretty out there. It takes a little bit of a stretch thinking, and I don't want to steal the thunder, but those are the two first theories. There's a third theory with Vargas, so keep that in mind. Vargas is becoming an interesting character this week because of all these options, depending on how you want to view the Blacklist and what you've been keeping an eye on. Cooper, age before beauty Cooper, right? Wise and knowledgeable. He actually says that if you're an East Coaster, you would never use the word Sammy. Instead, you would use the proper Samuel. And in Off and Running We Are, this chat with Tom, right, about the mission. And then Tom starts to play it back with Cooper. Cooper actually smirks a little bit.
Yeah, he likes how this is working, yeah.
So I have to go. Is this a cool thing? Do you like Cooper doing this kind of, under the radar with Tom?
He doesn't want to, he doesn't want to rip the pages out of the rule book. He just wants to bend them a little bit, Yeah.
Just bend those bindings.
Yeah, no, I think that this is the only way he could have really gotten to Tom Keene. He couldn't do it officially, and Ressler said as much previously. So, but he still. And did Ressler give him sort of, kind of something, kind of like permission? I think the last episode, I or maybe the very beginning of this one, I'm trying to remember. There was a conversation between them, and it seemed to me like, Ressler's like, we can't, deal with him at all officially, and he wasn't going to at all, officially or unofficially, in the hallway there last episode. So, but I think that there might be some sort of a wink and a nod for Cooper to do this.
I think it was an underwritten thing, right? It was a conversation between the two guys, and kind of like Cooper opens up that thing. It's like, if you ever tell anybody, I'll deny it.
Yeah.
So I absolutely think maybe it was a nod to say, and like I said, how did Cooper know where Tom would be? Maybe Ressler knew some stories and shared that information off camera in the deleted scenes. We'll have to wait and see. Does this change your viewpoint of Cooper, though, at all? Because here Cooper's been kind of this like loyal, devout by the book. Granted, he went down a slippery slope in season 2 because he was being duped about his illness. With him working with Tom, is this okay with you? Do you think Cooper's still an honorable man?
I think Cooper's an honorable man. I think when he started dealing with Reddington from the pilot, the whole idea is that we are using somebody else to catch some of these other bad guys. That's basically what he's doing with Keene. He's basically using him to get Karakurt. So, and just like they have been using Reddington to get at all these people on his list or somebody's list. And so this doesn't seem like a stretch. And it may be something that he might have not have done prior to Reddington, but now that he has done it with Reddington, it's not so hard to see him doing it with Keene.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good explanation. I'll buy that. That's good.
You can have it.
Ressler didn't really do too much this week. He was just kind of the Cooper of the episode, if you will. Running the show, doing what he's supposed to do, taking the calls like a good FBI task force leader should. No real big growth or change for him this week. So I want to jump right away over to Tom, because he's still sitting at the Chinese restaurant. I have to wonder, has this guy showered in days? Still has the ball cap on?
The lady keeps pouring him that tea.
Oh, my goodness. And this lady, I tell you, she's working the longest shifts. There's got to be some union thing or something going on here.
But she needs the hours, evenings and the mornings. Oh, man alive.
So he agrees with Cooper to take the job, finds his way to Karakurt through a Playboy, and then basically, probably, this was great. I mean, for all the people that are Tom haters on the show, and there's a bunch of them out there, they either hate Tom or they hate Tom and Lizzie's relationship, but they like Tom's character. This was utter writing brilliance, utter acting, editing brilliance by the editing team. This whole sequence where he becomes this new persona literally in front of our eyes. I mean, such awesome job, I thought.
I mean, it reminded me a little bit of a TV show I saw years ago with my wife. We used to love this one. It was called The Pretender. It was about a certain kind of person that could easily fall into a different role, a doctor or a painter or, any sort of shipping clerk. He could do anything and learn it very quickly. And this kind of reminded me, this is sort of the long version of getting into it. Just poof, didn't change overnight. But, reciting the story and reciting the names and the dates and the events and the whole bit to his barber and, this and all these different people. I thought that was fantastic. You hear it, over and over a couple of things, but you hear the same story. You hear in some of the same situations as they cut and cut and cut from one to the next. But that was just, I loved that. It was absolutely good. And I got to say, I am a Tom fan. I've liked his character, bad and good. And so I'm not one of the haters. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the hater thing came, I want to say it's probably maybe season 2. Because I think he was holding back Liz a little bit in season 2, and that's maybe where the hate came from. Because I thought it was the most interesting character of season 1, because you didn't know this whole, who's he working for? Why is he working for, if he was working for Red, then why did he flip over to Berlin and all this? And then if he's working for Berlin, why is Zumani stabbing him in his apartment? You know, he was really interesting in season 1. So I like what they're doing with him. They're keeping him away from Liz for the time being, and then giving him the ability to do what he does best, which is play these personas, which I love seeing. I mean, it was fabulous the way this went down. And then, of course, you get to the end of the sequence, and you're like, oh, Liz, I love you. It's like, no.
It's interesting. My wife got tired of the Blacklist about the beginning of season 2. And so she hadn't seen so much. And so she hadn't seen anything between Liz and Tom since in the bowels of the ship. And then she was watching it with me while I was watching it for this episode, and she's like, wow, I must have missed some stuff here with Liz and Tom. Yeah, it's complicated.
Yes, slow romantic scene sex means something totally different than just a quickie in the basement.
Oh man,
this is good stuff. Good stuff. I love Tom this season. It's really good. Keep it up. Keep it up. But no more I love yous. Again, the relationship thing still kind of grubs us a little bit. So let's move into Liz then. Clearly, Liz trusts Aram since she gives him this giant hug in the apartment, right? Only plays kind of long-distance relationship with Wrestler. Mm-hmm. So does this clearly show a different level of trust between the two of them?
Well, I think she knew, I mean, not trust. I think she may trust Wrestler to do the right thing by the FBI and by what he needs to do. And I think with, as I mentioned, Aram's kind of the timid fella. He's not going to arrest her right off the bat. She knows how he feels about her. He still thinks she's innocent and ought to be, brought in on nice terms. So I think it's just she knows the people she's working with, and she knows which ones not so much she can trust, but she is safe with. That's how I play it.
That makes sense. Now, do you think that at this point everybody's on Red's payroll except Wrestler?
No, I would not see that coming, and I would be a little disappointed with that. I don't think they're on the payroll. I just think they are true to their character.
Because remember, Samar technically was brought into the task force in season 2 by Red. Red helped her get in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you still wonder in the back of your mind, like, what is she doing? And in this episode where she was kind of like that investigative person, like, what are you doing, Red? Where are you going? What? This wasn't part of the plan or something. Like, you can see her just thinking, especially when they get the call in the car on the way to Nasir's house. And she's like, why is he there already? Kind of was the look on her face that I got, which was interesting.
Yeah, just not Aram. He's not on her payroll. No.
Okay, so for 3 episodes now, Liz is beginning to understand the stakes, right? We have to move. We have to keep on the run. Someone's always one step behind. And then
she's been to the Russian embassy, for crying out loud, to try to stay one step ahead.
Exactly right. So then she goes and calls Wrestler last week. Right, which was, and then Red's like, why did you call Wrestler? Gosh darn it, blah, blah, blah. And so then this week, of course, she calls Tom.
Oh, man.
So what's going to happen? Is Red going to find out? Red's going to basically throw her under the bus or be angry with her? Or what? How is Red going to react to that?
Well, I think this is the consequences thing again. I mean, when she called Wrestler, there were consequences. I think not listening to Red a second time, they're going to be even worse. And I think maybe one of these episodes is going to be the entire episode is going to revolve around the consequences from doing that.
It's probably something that Tom gets involved with that actually messes up Red's plan to get to whatever he needs to for the director, and then that, of course, causes the next thing to fall out for the rest of the 3rd season or something.
We're making a lot of predictions for the season. There's a whole bunch of episodes that have to show up here pretty soon.
Yeah, this is only number 4, people. We got 18 to go.
We got time, yes.
One out of a few tweets actually mentioned how fascinated she was with Liz now and realized that she has some serious emotional problems. What do you think about that?
I hadn't thought about that. It's a great way of looking at this. That why is she making these mistakes, calling Wrestler and Tom? Maybe she is really in need of someone to be in love with her, and why she wants that very understandable fantasy of having, a great marriage, kids with her, the whole bit. She just wants to be the house behind the white picket fence. Nothing wrong with that. But there may be, it's a good question. Is there an emotional problem that is overly needing that? That's something to keep an eye out for, I guess, at this point.
You go back to how they were talking about Tom and how do you react if you've never had someone love you, right? And Liz could be in that exact same situation if she was without her parents. Now, Sam raised her, took care of her, so there clearly was love in the family. Mm-hmm. But does she have that mother-father separation anxiety that's causing her to have these kind of underlying emotional fits, if you will? Or has this something to do with the warrior gene, or something that has to do with the way her brain was scrambled to protect all of these hidden secrets?
Oh, yeah.
So something deeper there. There definitely is.
Yeah, you would understand if she had some sort of, blowback from all the stuff that has gone on with her in her life and in her brain. It's not beyond the realm of possibility, that's for sure.
All right, Red this week, our last one. He starts to quote the play Mother Courage, and it's by Bertolt Brecht. And the full line that he's trying to come up with reads as follows. We actually found a segment of the play. It says, "I'm not courageous. Only the poor have courage. Why? Because they're hopeless. Just to get up every morning to plow a potato field in wartime, or to bring kids with no prospects into the world. Yeah, to live poor, that takes courage. No. They trudge along uncomplainingly, carrying the emperor in his heavy throne and the pope in his stone cathedral. They stagger, starving, bearing the whole thundering weight of the wealthy on their broad, stupid backs. Is that courage? It must be, but it's perverted courage. Why? Because what they carry on their backs will cost them their lives." Such an interesting passage that they chose for Mother Courage. Is this supposed to talk to us, if we found out what the rest of the lines were, that this is exactly what the cabal is doing, right? The cabal is making themselves wealthier. They're driving wealth and making people poorer, kind of that upper 1% of the 1%. And literally, we just follow blindly in our capitalism and the way we do things. And because of that, we're actually going to die at the hands of the cabal if we don't wake up.
And we don't know. In this case, if you're interpreting it that way, those who are carrying the emperor don't even realize they're doing it.
Right, exactly. They're just completely like blinders on the whole time.
So this is the real world being opened up to the rest of the world. When the whole cabal, when the fulcrum came out into the public, it was giving the public a little taste, a little view of whatever it is on their back. Maybe you don't know what it is. Maybe you realize that you're carrying something, but you don't know what it is. Well, here's just a glimpse, and they handled it in such a way that not too much of that got out. But yeah, maybe that's what we're trying to get across, that we maybe ultimately the blacklist is to show to the public the real nature of politics and the government that's over them, and who really is in control.
Now, I really love, too, that the writers chose this passage from Brecht, because another tie-in that might come into the blacklist here is that Brecht himself was actually a nomad on the run, if you will, crossing Europe in the late 1930s that is, and finally landed in Germany. Now, the play itself was first staged in 1941 in Switzerland during the middle of World War II, and then Brecht actually directed it in 1949 in, you guessed it, Berlin. So we have this continuing theme of Germans and Russians kind of with this World War II concept here about the show. So do you think, that this is something we should be paying attention to, that this play is something, and it talks about Mother Courage, like Mother Russia, Mother Katerina Rostova. Interesting that they chose this passage.
You can, I think it's possible to overthink some of this and find connections that aren't there, but it is interesting that, yes, that there is a familial issue with Liz, and, maybe that we have just recently, a couple episodes back, been in the Russian embassy. And so, maybe there is a kind of a, not an overt pointing at this direction, but saying maybe something like we're going to deal with the mother issue very soon, that sort of thing.
Well, I did have a link for a PDF that has more about the play if you're interested. That'll be in our show notes over at theblacklisexposed.com for this 34th episode for the Djinn and number 43. Love the line. Tell me about you, Alice. I love stories.
I love that line. Yes, I wrote that down in my own notes. It's like, oh my goodness, he does, doesn't he?
But the best part about that delivery was the camera pans over to Liz for like a split second, and she does like that eye roll, like, oh, seriously.
Don't get him started.
Love it. So then, of course, he gives this giant speech. We talked about it with the father, Red's tirade, if you will. Mm-hmm. What did you take away from that speech? What did you learn from that what we'll call it, exposition of words?
I will say that I learned Red's view of a lot of this. I understand that, where he stands on it, and it's understanding that, like I said before, understanding that, I think, really does show that his actions toward the father, who did all these things, is still... there's still some. He's not treating him like he ought to. He's giving him grace. He's giving him mercy, and so I see that as, now that we know where Red stands, that's his words. Let's see his actions, and they are. Some would say in conflict. I wouldn't say that. I would say even with his beliefs, he acts with generosity towards the father, and I think that's more of the continuing redemption story, where we went, going from, the pilot up until now versus, Liz's traveling, kind of the other direction. So I liked how that kind of shows that a little more obviously.
Does it show it obviously, though? Because if you think about the Blacklist and what it does and what Red's purpose has been for some of these episodes, like I think back to Ruslan Denizov, where he's literally putting Ruslan into power so that Red has power in the Ukraine, is the reason why he ultimately wanted to save this father, because he didn't seem like he wanted to. I mean, it almost looked like he was going to put a bullet in his head himself.
Yeah.
But then he ends up saving him. And is it because he needs Azir Financial to be on the map and not taken over by the Newcastle group? So
and does he need Nassim on his side? Yeah, I can see that.
Even though she's in custody now.
Well, at this point, yeah. I want to mention one thing here, and that is I feel Aaron's pain. In that, Aaron, I understand how how rough it is when Troy can just quote chapter and verse an episode and season, and character and plot point. It's like, wow, where did that come from? Oh yeah, that's true, it did happen, but it's like he's got a mind like a steel thingamabob, what you call it? Yeah, trap. There you go. And I don't.
Well, I did forget about Connie from Berlin. So the Russian person, the secretary or whatever his name was. So
okay.
Yeah, I did miss one.
Okay, well there's one. All right.
I am fallible. So
I don't feel so bad anymore.
Now
I just heard Aaron go, wow, how did you?
Where did that come from? 44 episode rewatch in 44 days.
That'll do it.
The fantasy of the little girl never letting go of her hand. Clearly, obviously, Red's fantasy as well. Kind of tears up a little bit as he hears the story. So the question I have, is his daughter dead? Is this really his deep, dark desire? What was he feeling in that moment to you?
Or was he feeling like he can never have that, but she might? Ooh, maybe Liz still can have it, but he can never.
I like it. Interesting stuff. Now, tracking down Dembe, right? Red finds the stronghold with Leonard Call. So the question everybody's asking, when are we going to see Mr. Kaplan?
Yeah, really.
We've seen Glenn, Vargas, Call. Dembe. We've seen everybody in the group, right, except for Mr. Kaplan. What is going on with this?
Mr. Kaplan must be working in the background, and I think when we see Mr. Kaplan show up, we will have we'll get like a whole big picture. Oh, this is all that's been happening, and how Red's whole organization that backs him up has been working in the background to do all this. I think it'll be a very impressive.
See, and that's why I'm leaning to that one concept of Vargas maybe working for Kaplan and sharing information or whatever, because he had the chance to double cross Red back in season 2. He didn't, and so why would he double cross him now? So that's what I'm kind of interested in, this other optional theory of maybe it was to make Dembe look dead, to save the family, to basically bring Solomon out into the wind so that way we could find him. Maybe Kaplan is moving all these pieces in the background that we don't know about.
So this is sort of a double cross here.
Could be. Woo!
That Dembe doesn't even know about.
I know, that's true, because Dembe got shot. It seemed like he was like, didn't expect it,
what
right?
What the heck was that?
Or did he? So that's the other question was, did Dembe give Vargas bad intel?
Oh, man. Then you have Red's organization with the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing.
Very much so. Oh, man. Good stuff. Great episode. Love it. This is great.
Man. No, this was good. This is very good.
But we still got a lot to do yet.
Indeed. What a great episode to be subbing in for Aaron for. Yes. Perfect. Sorry, man, you missed it. Well, remember to be sure to download the Blacklist Exposed app, right, for iOS and Android, okay?
Or both.
Or both. Yes, if you've got them both. I mean, iPad and Android phone. There you are. And you can go even deeper in the mystery of Red Reddington by visiting our partner Blacklist sites, theblacklistnbc.com, theblacklistnbc.com, as well as see the weekly post for clearing the red tape in our Facebook group to go even deeper in this episode. So if you want spoilers, there they are.
You bet. And we had a few new podcast reviews as well from KT Savage in the USA. Best Blacklist Cast. I am subscribed to the excellent podcast and eagerly await every new edition. Give it a go. Thanks so much, KT, for sending that in. Also, Bobby Carr, 88 from the USA. Very good, clear, and accurate. It's very enjoyable, well-researched. I love the deep diagnosis and discussions. This is a great podcast. A lot of care goes into it, and it shows. Double plus and thanks for using the characters' cast names and not their real names. Really lazy for some podcasts that skip the most basic research. Thanks, fellows, for putting in the good work. It shows. It's great. Keep it up.
Well, thanks so much for sending those review in, even though I probably had nothing to do with them. I couldn't have. If you've not done so yet, come on, go ahead. Leave a review right now. You can pause right here. It's a good point for it. And we'll wait. Okay. And you can leave a review either in iTunes, the iTunes podcast app for iOS, or our app in the Google Play Store. So, yes, we accept all sorts of reviews from all over the place in either one of those. Okay. Well, let's see what stories Red has to tell, since he likes telling stories, in this week's Red's Rhetoric.
Good stuff this week in Red's Rhetoric coming up. But first, a little bit of cleaning up from last week. Yes, Red Progress. It is a winner this week. 70% of you voted for Red's Progress. Very thankful, again, for all of you that do send in those votes via Twitter, via the Facebook groups, via Clamor even. If you go ahead and like those up on Clamor. Exciting stuff to be able to go through all of that. Well, this week we have two scenes that I'm sure you pretty much already figured out. The first one is going to be when he sits down at the table to hear Alice's story.
Let's forget about the Djinn for a moment. I'd be more intrigued to hear about you, Alice. I'm sure you have a story to tell. I love stories.
I used to work the convention circuit, standing next to supercars all day in heels and short shorts. As a brand ambassador, you're trained to answer questions and push product. The Djinn found me through an agency I work with. Most of our clients are men. They enjoy little eye candy. When I started, the Djinn scripted every word I said. But I guess I had a knack for reading people, knowing their desires. In time, I became the face of the operation.
I imagine selling fantasies is a very profitable business, one your clearly not profiting from.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
The Range Rover in the driveway, those diamond earrings, your shoes. Your aspirations clearly exceed your reality.
I've been preparing to quit. I have more than enough money.
Oh, lies on top of pretense, my dear. You haven't quit because you enjoy the power. There's no shame in that.
Do I look ashamed?
No, you do not. It appears we're all good at reading people. What fun. But Alice, I don't think you see that we have an opportunity here to make both of our fantasies come true. The Djinn is a middleman I believe you've outgrown. Tell me his name. Tell me all about him, and I'll get him out of your way. You can launch your own operation, maybe one that's a little more optimistic and constructive than the present business model. I even have your first client all lined up. So, this Djinn, tell me.
I love that he uses the him pronoun.
Yes. I was wondering if he was going to use it. When he started asking about the Djinn, I was thinking, is he going to assume a he? Because, standing in front of him is the woman who was being the front, being the facade. Yeah, so I was surprised.
Yeah, because at first when they open up the show, they do clearly state that it's a woman. Now that they found out that Alice isn't the Djinn, they immediately assume a man.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting. So, hashtag red power for that first one for the scene with Alice. Hashtag red power.
Poor Alice, she was what they call in the convention business a booth bunny.
A booth bunny. But I love the accent. The accent is so cool.
Yes.
So cool, especially when you hear just the audio and not actually see her on screen. Love those accents. Second one this week is going to be, of course, the tirade, the rant, the big speech as he stands in front of Nasir and, of course, the mutilated father laying on the ground.
Please come in. We have much to discuss, and time is a factor.
What do you want?
Offer my sympathies.
I know who you are.
And I know who you are, Nassim. What a beautiful name. It means breeze in Farsi. But you weren't born Nassim. You were born Nasir, the victorious. How ironic. But a boy. A perfectly healthy boy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Alice told us the story. We know you're the Djinn.
This must be your father, the butcher. Tell me, Bakram, was it so horrific to discover that your 19-year-old son, your eldest son, was gay? So horrific that you forced him against his will to go under the knife, change his gender to give you a daughter instead of your son, who is gay?
Clerics accept. People can get trapped in the body of the wrong sex. The law says...
I wasn't trapped. I liked my body. I liked men.
I wanted to protect you, Nassim. They could have killed you.
For being gay. They're so homophobic that being gay is a hideous crime, but chopping off a man's penis isn't? Honestly, is it just me, or is the human race armed with religion, poisoned by prejudice, and absolutely frantic with hatred and fear, galloping pell-mell back to the Dark Ages? Who on earth is hurt by a little girl going to school or a child being gay? Let's be frank, Bakram. You didn't change your son to protect him. You changed him because he disgusted you.
Hashtag red speech. Oh, so powerful, even hearing it a second time. Or third or fourth, depending on how many times you've watched the episode by now.
And when's the last time you heard the phrase galloping pell-mell?
I know. He uses such great words. And he adds these in himself, right? Daniel Knopf on his interview even said how Spader reads over the script and he replaces them with these, dictionary, thesaurus, 25 centers, putting them in there. So just, so good. Such a good speech. We're going to call it hashtag red speech this week. So if you want red for president in 2016 after that, then hashtag red speech. Otherwise, go ahead and pick Alice because you love her accent. That's hashtag red power for this week's Red's Rhetoric.
All right, let's see what all of you thought of the Djinn with Special Agent Intel. Lord Z wrote in, he said, on redemption, what Red said is that Liz can stop being a fugitive if she addresses the stories now. But if she does not, Liz will forever be on the run. His plan is simple: get the Cabal to turn on Peter, the director. This takes the heat off Liz and makes them her protection. In a Machiavellian way, it works for them to keep her close. On the other hand, Peter wants Liz gone for some reason. Solomon will want to know that reason. Not seeing Liz going back to the FBI, or Red either for that matter, time is running out. 2017 is close at hand. Why should Solomon believe Red will not interfere? Why isn't this a CIA matter at this point? That's a good question. Expecting Liz at some point to have to join the Cabal or mount her own army of resistance like Red. Jacob will be her weakness, however. Can Liz go back? Not likely, but she can go forward with the Mad Hatter, Red, in Wonderland, as the Red Queen, Katerina, cuts off their heads. Well, there you go. That's a great little parallel.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting when you think about it. Who is running this show?
Indeed. And Kristen, let me say this right. Kristen wrote in and said, "The Blacklist is the best show I have ever watched. My friends all know I'm obsessed with it, and you've got to be obsessed. It's an obsessing show. It's literally my home screen. Reddington is portrayed amazingly by Spader, and if Keen and Ressler don't end up together, that's it. I'm done."
Yes, I think that's what Aaron wants too. He said hashtag Kiesler, I think was his shipping name. Well, we had a tip come in from the past, if you can believe it. This week's episode helped me forget last week's boring episode. This might sound like Andrew, but he doesn't say his name is Andrew. This episode had excellent writing and was a very balanced episode. A little mystery, a lot of deception, tad bit of suspense, some progression in the main storyline, a handful of sweetness, and most importantly, we got to visit Aram's apartment and see Tom back in action. I did not expect the twist about the real identity of the Djinn from the beginning. I had thought it was first the lady that we had met, and then to find out that the real Djinn had his sex changed forcefully because he was gay, horrified me and made me want to root for the Djinn to kill the father at the end of the day. Anyways, let's talk about Vargas. I never thought he would betray Dembe and leave him for dead. I wonder what Red would do when he finds out what Mr. Vargas has done to Dembe. Or is Red having Vargas infiltrate the Cabal like he did with the Berlin organization? I was pleased to see Leonard call again. I wonder if we'll see more of him. I do wonder where Mr. Kaplan is, though. Thanks, Marty McFly.
So,
obviously, a Back to the Future reference for Back to the Future week this week.
I was going to say, if you're Marty McFly, you could go, a few months ahead and tell us what happens.
That's true. Now, Lord,
but no spoilers.
No spoilers. Lord Z is actually back and agrees with Marty. Oddly, yes, I have long wanted Dembe shot. And now that's over because now the fun can begin, as it looks like a setup. In that Dembe said if he were dead, his family would be safe. Well, there you go. Now, the third option. Okay, so Vargas either killed him, he's a traitor, yada yada, or Vargas is set up by Mr. Kaplan, Red, whatever, to make it look like Dembe's dead, bring Solomon out in the wind. The third option, you have to look at the photos. So Tom is using the loop, or the loupe, however you...
Jeweler's loop, yeah.
Yeah, to look at the pictures very, very closely. And if you look at the pictures and then compare it to a photo of Mr. Vargas when he stands up there talking to Dembe after the tussle and his hair and the way it is and everything, could Vargas be Karakurt?
Ooh.
What do you think of that idea?
I was looking at, I'm trying to remember what the, and like I said, I didn't recognize Vargas in this episode until you mentioned it here. I didn't know who this guy was on the floor. And if that's Vargas, then he looks a whale of a lot different. Was he even played by Paul Rubens?
Yeah, he definitely was played by Paul Rubens back in season 2.
Oh, but in the Djinn.
Yeah, he was. Absolutely, yeah.
I always see Pee Wee Herman when I see Paul Rubens. I did not see anything like that with this, and maybe that's the whole point here, is that we've mentioned that Karakurt has had facial work done, and so maybe we're seeing that here.
Yeah, go back to the fact that the spoon, right? He's scared of the blood and no hesitation stabs the guy in the back. So he does kind of cringe away a little bit at the end. So I was like, okay, maybe that is Vargas. But yeah, Suzanne and one of Suzanne's people from her group kind of put this together, got all the pictures. You can go check that out. I think it was really interesting to take a look at it and go, plausible. I could see it potentially, but I'm more and because Tom looked at it with the thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he looks up from that at one point with a kind of a knowing look, like, oh my goodness, of course,
How did I not see it this whole time?
I'm sorry, am I channeling, Captain Kirk here?
Yeah, exactly. Interesting stuff. Okay, we had our voicemail come in here. I believe this is from Alabama. Take it away.
Hey, this is Erica from Alabama. Another great podcast, guys. Absolutely loved it. I am just enjoying wrestlers so much this season, and I'm loving y'all's comparison to Tommy Lee Jones. That might be making me love him even more. I don't know, but he has been so great this season. I'm so glad not to see him slipping and falling and fumbling everywhere. Anyway, so the My Way Home line, so many different things that you can take from it, but I really agree with what you guys said about she's his redemption, and it could be familial. It could be very much that she is his way home, literally. Like, she is the last tie he has to any family that he once had. Or it could be that she's the key to getting everything in his life back together. But I like the idea that she's the key. Like, she's the piece of the puzzle that he needs to get back to where he needs to be in life. He obviously loved her mother, so he knows something about her that I don't know. I have too many theories. Anyway, she's his redemption, and that's what I really took from that. She's the key to Red Reddington getting to come home and be just Raymond, sit on the porch and yell at some kids for coming too close. Or maybe he's like telling stories on the porch all the time. So anyway, great podcast. I absolutely loved it. You can tell I'm fumbling because I don't usually call into these types of things, but y'all are my only podcast, and I love it so much. So keep up the great work, and I can't wait till next week. Bye.
Can you imagine that? Red sitting on a porch. Get off my lawn, kids! You're being rambunctious or something.
Sitting in a rocker, telling all his stories. That's right. Creak, creak, creak.
You're being too boisterous. Get off my lawn.
and say it with such a winning smile, and then after you don't get off the lawn, the heat seeker missile comes in. Okay, there you go.
Come here, sit down, children. I love telling stories.
Yes.
Don't mind those Hellfire missiles running behind you. Great stuff.
Alrighty. Well, Tessa wrote in, hey guys. Hey Tessa. I love your podcast. Hope you love this one too, because, I'm doing my best here. Brilliant, and loved the interview with Daniel Knopf. Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
Alrighty. Refreshing and provocative. In the mystery that is Red, one thing stands out to me. The first image of the Blacklist in Ranko Zamani was where much of the canon starts, is the image of the FBI building. Red is in view from behind as Newton Phillips approaches, hands him a leather bag, and tells him, "Must be good to be home again, sir." Red goes in, hands his passport, states his business, and goes to the seal, takes his coat off and his hat off, and when the siren sounds, he's kneeling in the center of the seal. The camera angle is beautiful. Him at the center, weapons trained at him in a circle. At the end of the episode, when they are seated at the conference table, I find the most provocative image of all, directly in contrast to the opening sequence. Red is seated at the end of the table in the position of power, under a giant seal of the FBI, in a position of power and comfort. There are two men in dark suits at the side, no guns in sight. I view this, and a few other clues here and there, including the comic, especially when Sebastian asks Red why he is protecting the FBI, especially after what they did to him. I think Red was an undercover FBI asset or agent. What do you guys think? I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
I love the, never really looked at it from that perspective of the submissive and then in power when you look at those two scenes back to back in the pilot for Zamani. Very, very interesting stuff. This is the one thing I kept going back and forth on. He was supposed to be naval intelligence. He was being groomed for admiral. What happened to make him clearly go off the grid back in 1990? And that's the key year that we've been going for. And then he resurfaces back in 1994. So what happens between 90 and 94 is really the interesting parts of Red that we haven't gotten to see yet. Hopefully uncover a little bit of that in the comic books, maybe. Issue 4 just came out this week that we were recording this, the week of October 22nd. So, was he potentially an asset? Was he a spy?
I would ask, why doesn't the team, this special task force, which has clearly a lot more information than maybe the rest of the FBI does, not know that? Unless there's a deep cover that somebody else only knows about.
Well, and he's working with the FBI. So the question is, was he FBI? Could he have been CIA? Could he have been Navy SEAL? Remember, because he was in the Navy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Very good. Yeah, great stuff. Thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate that.
And Jim also wrote in a very succinct sentence. Liz is great. She should learn from the genius, Red. Shouldn't we all?
We should.
Ellie also wrote to us, and she said, I adored this show, the first season. The actors, the concept, the writing, everything was perfect. But during season 2, is this TPTB? Is it the Paramount Top Brass?
Not quite, but that's close because they do work out of the Paramount Studios. The powers that be.
The powers that be. Okay, because I've seen this before when they've been talking about Star Trek, and they were talking about the Paramount Top Brass because Paramount owns Star Trek. The powers that be messed up completely in season 2. The whole redemption arc for Tom/Jacob, or whatever his name is, has damaged this show badly. It makes me sad to see how Liz's character is being written as weak and unintelligent due to this. The reason people watch the show is because of the relationship between Red and Liz. Switching the focus to Tom simply because he is eye candy is nothing but stupid. It seems everybody has forgotten the horrible way he treated Liz in season 1. He's a liar and an abuser and not deserving of redemption at all. I still watch the show since I can't let go of the fact that it's still got potential to be very, very good and because Spader is amazing. I really hope that it gets better and that they get rid of Tom. Otherwise, I don't think I'll keep watching. And I got to tell you, Ellie, like I said about my wife, who hadn't seen the show since the beginning of season 2, and now she's looking at season 3 going, how did this happen? She could feel your pain.
I think there were a lot of people that were like that. They were trying to, the whole boat sequence, and then he comes into the court, basically gives, why would he do that after the fact that he basically played her the entire first season? So I could see where fans would be that way, but we're now getting the Liz that everybody wanted from season 2 and season 3. So to say that Liz is still kind of wishy-washy and that Liz isn't really standing on her own and being her own person, I mean, she jacked that car with the antenna all on her own. To me that seems strength, powerful. That doesn't seem kind of wishy-washy to me. So
and without the GPS,
yeah. So I think people just need to let it go and just look at the Tom story as the Tom story. Look at the Liz and Red story as the Liz and Red story, and just let it play out. Wait till the end of season 3, then you can make whatever criticisms you want in the off season. But the story is the whole story. We're clearly in a not a week by week criminal of the week kind of concept now. You have to let the whole thing play out, because just like a twist this week, there could be a twist next week that changes the whole dynamic. Tom could die.
It's a lot more complex in season 3. Yeah.
And I'm still waiting. I mean, this is the kind of show that they wouldn't be. I don't think they would let it go past them to kill off a main character. I have that feeling, that sense in my gut. The third season is always that big, like, oh, what just happened, right? Like Alias season 3, Lost season 3, Fringe season 3. I mean, all these season 3s were huge juxtapositions to the show. So I just had this feeling like there's a main character that could die at some point in this show.
That would be interesting. That would certainly, start putting people off kilter a little bit, because when that never happens. I mean, we've had one character, what was her name at the very beginning in the first season?
Myrna.
Yeah, lost her. She was part of the team, and we lost her. So, but since then, there really hasn't been a solidly placed character take a dive for the team. So if they were to do that, then all of a sudden they don't look so invincible.
Correct. I think we're getting too soft, maybe too comfortable, and I think we lose sight of the fact that Red was this criminal for very long, for the last 20-some years. The fact that Wrestler was hunting him that whole time, and now Wrestler's hunting him again. So I think those are some of those storylines that we have to keep in the back of our mind as we go forward. Red is not all that good and honest that we think he is. He's always doing something to move the chess pieces on the board for something bigger. So keep that in the back of your mind. Robin said, That has to be one of the most awesome episodes ever. It just plays your emotions like all over the board. All those ups and downs made for one crazy ride. I love the Tom conversation. And he told Liz he loves her. Oh, and Aram. He is this beautiful light that just shines over the whole show. What a great guy. Bike helmet and all. Glad you picked up on the bike helmet. Can't wait to rewatch this and listen to the podcast. Thanks so much, Robin. And Brandy said that the Djinn was an absolutely amazing and well-written episode. I will have to watch that again and catch all the stuff I missed while I was picking my jaw up off the floor. Poor Vargas. He has no idea the fury that he has unleashed. I can't wait to see what Red has in store for him. So Brandy is clearly on the surface explanation of Vargas.
Yes.
So that should be the question, like which Vargas theory are you for this week? That should have been our profiling question.
That would be a tough one to answer.
All right, one last one here. A voicemail from somewhere out there. Take it away, mystery caller.
Hey, fellow special agents. This is Agent Aaron Peterson, and I am on the ground. I am closing in on Red Liz, and unfortunately, the Cabal has shut down my internet. So I am unable to join you this week, but I do want to say thank you to Doug for filling in last minute. Really appreciate that. I know it was quite a hassle and quite a hustle on your part to get in there, so I really appreciate it. In terms of the episode, man, there was a little snip and a crying game moment and all kinds of what just happened, and this show got me. It got me. But there is something I want to add to the show because I couldn't be there. When Red let him/her get caught, I was actually really irritated with that. I thought that was, I don't know. I mean, he was kind of glib about it, and I realized that, this young woman/man had basically tortured her father, but I also understood completely why, and I really thought that the sympathy that I thought Red had, I don't know, it just really bothered me. I just thought it was on both he and Liz's part. It's almost like they did not sympathize with her plight and why she was going through that, and I was kind of bummed by that, honestly. In terms of the show, I'd really like to hear what you guys think about that. Do you think Red maybe, usually these are cool moments, where he leads the bad guy into a trap and then he smiles as he flies off into the sunset. But this time I really felt like the character was horribly victimized, horribly tortured and mentally abused, and there were a lot more issues at play than just some dastardly fault. So I don't know, I'd like to hear what you guys think about it. I think that'd be really interesting. I loved his screaming I love the writers taking the opportunity to have a monologue against the Middle East there via Red. That was pretty cool. And I also, not just Middle East. I mean, I think they were having a nice little shot at religion and those that chastise people with different views, I suppose, and different lifestyles. So that was pretty cool. I know it was probably a little political. I'm sure there's a lot of people that were really not happy with that episode and other people that just loved that episode. Can't wait to hear the podcast. Really looking forward to it. Everybody out there, I will be back next week, I promise, with better internet. Unfortunately, I am with family, and the internet here is run by the Cabal. It is really shady. Really shady. All right, you guys. Well, you take care. Remember to keep yourselves off of the Blacklist.
Aaron, thanks so much for calling in. That's the only thing you can do from out in the woods.
Way out in the woods. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
Love it. Again, thanks so much, Doug, for being here. This is so great that you were able to step in last minute. I know we were trying to get this out with Aaron on the road, but great stuff. I love it. Good additions as well. Loved having you on.
I had a blast. I tell you, I like your guys' show. I like the way you guys put it together, and it was a real honor to be on it. And so I'm on the other really big GSM podcast now, so that's great too. That's
right. Now you've contributed to both leading podcasts on the network. You are number one. We bow down.
As long as I'm watching the TV show, there you are.
There you go.
Well, that'll conclude this episode. And be sure to follow us on Twitter this season. We are at the Blacklist GSM. We, and by we I mean Troy and Aaron, live tweet during the East Coast feed. And they use the hashtag The Blacklist. That's the official show hashtag, too. They've also got a Facebook group. Just search for The Blacklist Exposed and join on in for the fun.
You bet. Intel from you is what we want, and we get a lot of it every week and growing, so keep it coming. We have a few ways you can submit intel into the agency here. You can go ahead and interact with us on Tumblr, Instagram, Clamor, or as always, visit theblacklistexposed.com. You leave us a message using your smartphone with that send voicemail button right on the page.
You can also subscribe to the podcast in iTunes. Yes, of course. And leave us a review there. It always helps. And you can listen from the website if you'd like. But if you're really on the go, make sure you download the app. They've got an app. It's amazing. For iOS and Android, powered by Spreaker. That's right, Spreaker. You'll also find all the intel and the analysis about this episode for the Djinn by visiting theblacklistexposed.com. Thank you so much for listening. And don't forget to answer our profiling question of the week. What was on the page that Red stole from the leather-bound journal?
Can't wait for the answers. Until next time, I am Agent Troy Heinrichs. That's at Troy Heinrichs on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Special Agent Doug Payton. I'm at Doug Payton on Twitter. I'll be co-hosting the Person of Interest podcast for Golden Spiral Media in January, and I have my own political podcast at ctpodcasting.com. So be sure to subscribe, download the app, and submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off the blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production, copyright 2015. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.